for me, it was always about making it photorealistic. So I thought, if we're going to do VR, then let's try and push the boundaries of it now, and let's create photorealism and not settle for being inside a Simpsons type environment. For me, it needs to feel real. There is certain use cases that you don't require it to be photorealistic, but for the police and fire, for blood splatter and smoke patterns, for me, it has to be photorealistic.
So just for you to know, Alex and Paul have a stand. It's a L15, isn't it?
Yes.
And I do recommend you go and try, because they have 2 amazing VR experiences, which I tried this morning, and I thought, that's a tough start. But hey. So Paul, independently from Alex, in the meantime, was also developing a VR experience. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, with my reference being road safety, we developed about 5 years ago a virtual Fatal 4 car, which is a crash car simulator, where we isolated 4 students at a time in a car. We'd black the windows out, they'd watch kind of 5 DVD screens, and we'd had hydraulics added to the car so we could move up and down, side to side, and then experience a inappropriate drive with a crash. And we wanted to upgrade the film. And so I was walking through town one day after I'd gone through all my bid processes and got my money, and I went into the gadget shop and saw a VR headset. And I just kind of thought, that looks different. So I bought it. It was a cheap one, £15. Took it to work. I went to put my phone in it and it didn't fit, so I had to put some elastic bands around it, travel up, put it on. It wasn't very good, if I was honest, but I saw the potential. And so I went back into town to a Samsung shop where they got a Gear VR, and I put the Gear VR one in the shop, and I sat there, and I must have looked stupid because I was sat there doing that in the shop. I was in a complete world of my own, totally oblivious to what was going on in the shop.
How long ago was this?
This was now just over 2 years ago. So within kind of two kind of 18 months, we come up with the idea, we come up with the script, and we actually filmed what we thought was what everyone was doing, 360 filming, but we found out quite quickly it was one of the first. And we couldn't believe how it came out. It far exceeded our expectations. And this film, we give it away. Because we're a fire service, we don't make profit. You know, it's there to save lives. So if people want it, we send it to them via retransfer. And it's gone global. It's gone all over the world in 18 months. The last people to ask for it was a police sergeant from Trinidad and Tobago. And so we sent it to them a couple of weeks ago. And it just keeps growing legs. You know, more and more people are asking to use it. And it is, like I said, you need to come and experience it to understand how powerful it is.
Alex, what did you think when you tried that specific experience?
That's a good question, because that's how we actually met. So
Tell us about that.
Yeah,
that's a nice romance.
Me and Paul met at the Emergency Services Show 2 years ago. So I turned up and Paul had 6 firefighters, all individually starting the Gear VR headsets. So I just came up to you straight away and said, Paul, I can give you one button for this that you just press, and it syncs all the headsets, and you will have one person instead of 6. So that's how we got to know each other. And when I first saw the 360 film of Paul's, I was completely amazed. There's actually a part in it where one of the, I think it's the paramedic, gives you an injection into your leg, and when I first had a go, I physically felt pain in my leg as I looked down. So that would completely got me hooked. And then obviously that was the starting point for us working together a bit more. Paul then came to the office and had a go on full room scale VR with the Vive, and that's when I sort of got you hooked on photorealistic VR.
So let's get a bit more technical. Yeah, so you use Vive.
Yes.
Why did you choose that?
So we use Vive, but we can also run on Oculus Rift. And what we're doing is laser scanning the environments. So we're working with Leica Geosystems and Faro, and we're laser scanning the whole environment, and then we're taking thousands of photos with drones and digital cameras on site, then putting it through some software. There's no secrets. It's photogrammetry software that's readily available. And then we're doing a lot of cleanup on the meshes, because the amount of polygons that we get out of photogrammetry is crazy amounts, and they need to be simplified down, shrunk down so that we can actually fit them into Unity. We're using Unity at the moment, potentially Unreal in the future. Another thing we've just developed for Paul and the fire service is the ability to watch back any VR experience from any angle. So the trainer can have a record of everyone's virtual training experience.
So they can see if I'm looking here and then there, or vice versa.
That's right, yeah.
If I have...
Yeah, and also with
Okay,
heat maps as well, so you can see which areas they've looked at. Testing at the moment, the ability to have multiplayer in photorealistic VR, so we can have multiple firefighters training in a hot fire training scenario.
That would make sense, because in reality it is a collaborative effort, isn't it, Paul? Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to be able to do that over the internet in different locations, but also in the same physical space.
Paul, when your guys get to have a session with Alex and the training, how does the day work? Is it one day? Do they have to prepare up front? What happens?
We're not at that stage at the moment. We've gone past the proof of concept, and we're in kind of the development mode at the moment. Nationally, the National Fire Chiefs Council, we addressed them in January. We've now got 26 UK Fire and Rescue Services signed up to fund and produce these kind of training environments. The key point for me, and the philosophy is, and always will be, is this photorealistic. Because my role, I can go back onto a fire appliance at the drop of a pin if needed, and be in charge of incidents. And I have to kind of do reaccreditation every year. And at the moment we use, like Alex said, like a Simpson type format, a type of training system with a joystick. It's not real, it is computer generated images, and I believe certain training, if it's a computer generated image, it's a gameplay and you get game results. For the type of incident command training that we have to do, it needs to be photorealistic, because you need to stay focused. You need to make sure it's right. And that's where the photorealism comes into its own. And we'll be producing numerous different training environments. One of the most difficult ones we'll kind of have to overcome is breathing apparatus. Because my vision is that when we've got a breathing apparatus mask on, I want the screen or the visor to be a virtuality screen. Because to train in breathing apparatus, you need to be under air in your full fire kit. And if we can make the screen your visor, the training we can do will be kind of unlimited. Some of our training in breathing apparatus, hot fire training, is dangerous. People do get burnt in training, just due to the nature. But if we can train them on station in a virtual world, they get the muscle memory, they get the experience before we put them into hot fire training for real for the first time. We're aiming then for that to reduce the kind of the percentage of injuries we get. We don't get a lot of injuries, but one injury is too many. So this will give us the opportunity to reduce that. So
the idea is that your brain already knows what it can encounter on the real situation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like driving. Driving, once you've been driving a few years, it becomes kind of second nature, doesn't it? You drive without thinking about it. And if we can put our kind of operational firefighters through virtuality training, day in, day out, it becomes second nature. So when they get to an incident, they're going to be far more proficient. More proficient professional firefighters means we deal with incidents far quicker, which means we have the kind of possibility of saving lives quicker.
Okay. So I've got one more question for each of you before we open up to the floor. Alex, if you can tell us something about digitizing real-world equipment, which is part of one of the two experiences that you can see at your booth, at their booth, L15. And Paul, what is the time frame of this project once it's passed proof of concept?
Cool. So digitizing of the equipment. We actually haven't bought the fire hose here today just because of the space on the stand, but we have actually turned a real physical fire hose into a virtual object. So we've attached a Vive tracker to the end of the fire hose, and then we track it in VR, model it in VR, and you can spray the hose, and it adds a completely different level when you can actually touch with your hands the physical item as well. just touching on hands, I went and we tried out Manus VR. They've got some gloves that you wear, and I was completely blown away by the fact that I was actually feeling a fake sensation of touch in my fingers. I thought it wasn't possible, but I put the gloves on and I picked up a virtual stick or object, and I was hitting other virtual objects with this virtual stick, and my brain was filling in the gaps for that vibration. And when I felt that type of thing, I was like, this is huge. This was like a year ago, so I'm still waiting for gloves to become more of a thing.
Is it called Manor VR?
Yeah, Manus VR.
Manus, okay, thanks.
Just kind of touching on what Alex said there about putting a tracker on a piece of fire equipment. It's the branch which goes on the end of the hose. The first time he let me have a go with that demonstration, I'm sure my brain stopped for a few seconds to comprehend what I was doing, because I was in a virtual world picking up a real world item and operating it, and I'm kind of thinking, how does this work? You know, it really did make me think, and I kind of then again seen the potential for this for training, not just in the fire service, the blue light services, but any type of training. You know, it's I want to say it's going to happen, it is happening. And for your question, when, we're at the stage now where we're looking at putting together a national working party for the fire service to look into procurement, what films we want to make, or not films, what training environments we want to make. You know, we've already got a list of what we want to do. It's now getting the funding in place, and with 26 fire services already signed up, with a further 4 sitting on the fence, you know, and all the others are watching intently to see where it goes. You know, it's collaborative working, and that's what the blue light service is all about, because collaborative working equals collaborative funding, which means we all put a small amount into the pot to make it happen. So I would imagine 12 months, we should have working models available for kind of services who have signed up to it.
And then just one more thing on that. Like you saw the system a minute ago, you watched a 360 video and then you saw a room scale experience. So the software that we're developing is going to have the ability to host both of those experiences within the same device. So the fire service won't have to switch between Gear VR and a backpack PC. They'll just have it all on one device.
Which is a bit like when you showed me that specific man in the white room.
Yes.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that was already the switch.
Yeah. He was still a room scale experience. You could walk around him, but we're going to have the ability to have 360 video and room scale in the same scene, and also to be able to deliver different new experiences to the fire service and the police as and when they become available.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience? Yes.
Thanks. So I've seen various training VR kind of devices and experiences. Some of them are really, really impressive. Some of them are really entertaining. Given your background in gaming, do you ever envisage there being a crossover from the training side actually moving into gaming, because they are as entertaining as they are helpful?
Okay, I'll collect the other question and then we answer.
The impact on safety and training is really compelling, but I'm interested in the economics. Do you think this is going to be additional cost for the fire service, or is there some cost savings that you can make using this?
We all know kind of public sector have got ever decreasing budgets, and we've not done a kind of cost analysis, but looking at it, the initial setup cost will be quite high. But once it's in place, if I use for a breathing apparatus, for instance, we train two fire appliances at the same time, so 10 firefighters will go away for the day for training. Them 2 fire appliances need to be backfilled to give us fire cover. So you bring part-time firefighters in and part-time fire stations. So you've got 10 staff you're paying for that day. We've got 500 firefighters. So if we can train them in station, on shift, if the bells go down, they just drop the kit and go in on the call. So it won't overtake or take place, replace, should I say, our actual training, but it will supplement it, which means we don't have to go and do the training for real as often. So initially, it won't save money, but 4 or 5 years down the line, I think we'll see a cost saving. The biggest cost saving will be because we'll do it collaboratively. You know, if every service in the UK put £10,000 in, we've got £500,000 to play with. If it works, fantastic. They put 10,000 in the next year. If it doesn't work, they're £10,000 out of pocket. You know, and I'm sure we kind of waste that on kind of stationery.
And going over to the gaming question, the crossover is absolutely huge, as in we're using all of the technology that we ever used in gaming and more for this world. Some people get really scared with the word gaming or gamification. It's just a virtual environment. We're using the same tools to develop it as we would for a game. So yeah, I think there's going to be a huge crossover. The gaming industry and the staff within there are going to be able to help so much with the training side of things and VR. And I'm just telling everyone, I hope we can start pushing photorealism more and more, because a lot of people have been saying that it can't be done. Come over to the stand and we'll show you. See what you think.
Just one quick one, that crossover, again, it's just a thought. We do our incident command training, and if you get it wrong, the fire gets bigger. If you get it right, the fire goes out, and you utilise all your resources. The crossover could be, that might actually make quite an interesting game. You know, and if that's the case, you know, some fire services have got a kind of commercial arm where they can make money. It may be a way of bringing back income in to further develop kind of VR training.
Thank you very much, Alex and Paul. And yeah, come and talk to them in person. And thank you, Mookie, for having us.